I mean,
You could either die quickly or die slowly.
yeah.
The point of the matter is, as long as you take the choice, and the choice is your choice. So if you want to die slowly, I respect that. Do what you got to do. But don't bring me into it. Don't complain to me because you're choosing to die slowly. Or you can die quickly. Guys, welcome to another Reaction Wednesday. As you guys know, we pretty much react to trending or viral videos for our reaction. And so we got one, so we're just gonna get right into it. You can hear it, right, Jack?
Yep, I could hear it.
What cracked the code for me was like, what was he going through? When I looked at it from his position, like my dad wasn't around and all these things happened. And then when I took a further look, his younger brother got killed. So he spent all his nights looking for the cops didn't do anything. So the killer's roaming the neighborhood. So he's going out in the middle of the night and he's looking for the guy who killed his little brother. But he has a family. So my mom is looking at him like, what you want? She don't have the language or the tools to tell him, man, we love you. We don't want nothing to happen to you. We need you. So how it comes out to her is, where the hell you going? You got kids here. And how it sounds to him is, you want me to choose between you and my baby brother,
You don't give a shit
who
about
I
my
was
baby
supposed to
brother.
protect. Now there's the fracture, among other things. It's their relationship, not ours. Not ours as children. It's their relationship. So there's a fracture in that relationship. And then life on top of that. Like he can't get a job. The guy at the office is cursing him out, making him feel less than a man, but he got to take it because he needs the $6.50 an hour at that.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
yes.
So life beating him down. So he comes home, he's defeated. He don't, he's supposed to pick you up on Saturday. He's exhausted. We don't factor those things in
You don't
as
look
we
at things through those lenses. Was that somebody else that helped you get to that?
definitely a lot of therapy. We've been taught everything but emotional intelligence. That's not
Wow,
what you're taught as a young man growing up in projects. You're taught to
absolutely.
survive. Things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Some people look at this glass as half empty or almost full. The average person would look at this as empty, meaning it's negative oriented, not much you can do, versus individuals, and like I think Jay-Z is, he looks at this as an opportunity. There's an opportunity to fill this up. You fill it with any other type of liquid that you like if you don't necessarily like this liquid. Instead of you looking at life as a negative effect and there's a causality, these are opportunities for you to grow and learn from as opposed to it consuming you and affecting you.
Yeah, that could be true for a lot of people in general. I think it's always good not to have that victim mindset, but to have a mindset of, you want to work towards things and make sure things are better. Even if you've gone through stuff, you want to have that mindset where it's like, okay, things are happening. I want things to happen for me. The only pushback for me is, what about people who've gone through extremely traumatic experiences, like maybe they've been abused? That's something that could shape their how they react to people in future. I think I told you a story about that 11-year-old kid in Nigeria that was molested. Lo and behold, 2, 3 months down the line, he started molesting another kid who was like 4 or 5 years old. It's an exception, but I think it's always good to, when you preach certain things, you want to understand that there's people who don't have that opportunity to be able to live through that experience and learn from it.
I think that's definitely something terrible. But if I stay true to what I'm trying to say, every situation you have to look at it as some way out. I'm trying to be as empathetic as possible to this person. The reality is that there's only two ways to dig. You can either dig out of the situation or dig into the situation. So, yes, you've gone through that trauma, it happened. You can either learn from it and grow from it,
Yeah.
or you can become a victim of it and wallow in your pain, take it out on others, be despondent to the world, think that the world hates you, think that the world owes you. And I think this is what Jay-Z's trying to say. I'm not admonishing you, I'm not ridiculing you. No, I'm not treating you like them, but I still think this works for you. Grow from it, learn from it, become a prosecutor, become a prosecutor that fights for impoverished people, or become a doctor that can help treat these things and find cures for any diseases that might be rampant in the abuse world or rape world. Like, again, I'm not being facetious, I'm just saying this is the difference. Typically, when you dig into pain, it doesn't really grow you in any way. It just keeps you in your pain. But versus you pull out of it, you dig yourself out of it, you realize it helps you grow a bit more.
There needs to be that understanding that not all pain can be cured and not all pain can be lived through. Sometimes time heals certain things and sometimes it doesn't. I think we need to start having those conversations. A lot of times when things happen, like for instance, when he was given an example of you shouldn't let things happen to you, you should let things happen for you. When something happens to you, there's a reaction. How you react to that certain situation is key because that's what determines how you overcome it. And that's where you work towards making sure things happen for you so you can turn a negative into a positive. However, what if there's no opportunity for you to turn that negative into a positive?
I hear you. I just think, those people, if you can't find a way out of your trauma, your pain, if your life sucks, that's your problem.
What? That's what do you mean that's a you problem? Oh man. But in some situations, you really don't want to go through that experience for you to learn. Because there's some experiences you don't come out from, that you don't get to learn from. It's just something that happens and it's like it's so bad that it just tilts your life or the trajectory of where you're going. It goes from positive to negative and it never flips. Would you say that they were failures in life?
I think anyone that cannot find themselves in the darkness, they can't get out of the darkness, I think it's their fault. I think there's a certain point where you got to realize that you are given senses. Just because your vision, one of five senses, is gone and you can't live without that, then that's your problem. You got to learn to, if you're blind, you got to learn to not use your vision. You got to learn to heighten your ears, your sense of smell. When you're talking about those individuals that have gone through trauma, and I get it, you're trying to be nice.
No,
I
I'm not
think
trying to
those
be
people need to
nice.
realize,
I'm not trying to be nice, and I know the
you
world.
know, in a way you are. In a way
Okay,
you are.
okay.
You're very cautious, and I respect that. I'm not saying you're a nice. You're. We're both nice guys. The bottom line is, there's a certain point where you're in your own problem. If you choose not to do counseling, you choose not to, let's say you lost your vision, you choose not to learn Braille, and you choose not to take advantage of descriptive audio, that's your problem because you're stuck in a world where you're used to having your vision. So I think what Jay-Z's trying to say is this is what was always meant to happen to you. This was always your destination and your destiny. And so you got to acknowledge that. But if you don't and you keep ignoring that, then that's where you are just annoying.
Yeah, I hear you, but I do know that there's some experiences, some situations or life treatments that some people cannot get out of. You gave that example of a person who's
Give me an
blind.
example.
Okay, so
You
let's
gave me
go
that
let's
example.
go with the
Okay.
person that's blind, right? Say you're born
Yeah.
blind in maybe South Sudan. There's nowhere to learn Braille. And I'm only mentioning South Sudan because they're going through wars right now. Now it's just you're born in a war torn zone. Is that something that you could say life happened to you or for you? Like life's happening to you, but there's no way around it. Right? That's an exception. Generally, exceptions don't make the rule. I'm just giving that example. And my talking point is there's some situations out there that traumatic experiences that people have that they can't get out of. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you shouldn't push to get out of it or learn from your experiences. I think I agree with what Jay is saying. Just pause for a little bit and think about those who can't get through that experience, especially those who have,
And
lost everything because of it.
yeah, let me clarify. If you have an opportunity, that's all. If you don't have an opportunity, then that's different. It is what it is. But nine times out of 10, people do have opportunities. They choose not to take those opportunities. If someone's in a war torn area and they have no control, then that's something different. But if, say, somebody is in a war torn area and they have an opportunity to get smuggled out. Again, I'm just giving it a wild example. Get smuggled out. They knew that there's risks, but then, they can stay where in the war torn area. My point is that's their reality. Yes, you can die on the way to freedom, or you can do a slow death and stay where you're at. I know it's a really harsh
That, that's
example,
that's
but
that's
you
a
brought up a war-torn
yeah.
area.
That was the example
I'm
I
just
could think of.
saying.
Okay, so before we wrap it
Yeah.
up, I'll
But
give it.
do you get what I'm trying to
Yeah, I
say?
get what you're trying to
Do you
say.
get what I'm trying to
I
say?
get what you're trying to say. I mean,
You could either die quickly or die slowly.
yeah,
The point of the matter is, as long as you take the choice, and the choice is your choice. So if you want to die slowly, I respect that. Do what you got to do. But don't bring me into it. Don't complain to me because you're choosing to die slowly. Or you can die quickly. And I'm not saying that you'll die quickly, but there's a risk to being smuggled out of the country. You're more likely, you're going to get killed immediately versus you're going to eventually die in the war, right? And that's what I'm trying to say.
yeah. The other
It's a
argument to
tough
this,
one,
it's a
but
tough
sorry,
one.
go
Yeah,
on.
no. I'll leave it. I said I was going to leave it at that, but you might say Jay-Z's an exception to the rule because he was able to get out of it. But how many people in his neighborhood got out of what he experienced? I would argue that he's one of the maybe 5%. The 95% of folks that grew up in the same neighborhood are not doing as well as he is, probably in jail or have a record. Some situations cannot or have not been overcome. And we need to always think about that when we say these things to understand that there's people that can't get out of it and just help them to know that if you're experiencing something, there's hope, but you know, sometimes there probably isn't. But
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
All right, guys, this is a Reaction Wednesday. Hopefully, you guys found it interesting, and see you in the next one.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
All right.